Okay, obviously played Northwestern this week, 2-3 football team as well. Pat Fitzgerald's been there for 11 years. Does an excellent job, 10-win team last year. As far as their program, systematic, do what they do offensively and defensively. Mike Hankowitz has been there for a long time. Matter of fact, he was a linebacker coach at Purdue when I was a graduate assistant way back. Excellent coach, and they do what they do very, very well. Where we're at right now, I think we've talked enough about that. You guys will probably ask some more questions, but from my perspective, our players are probably getting bombarded with things as well. So when they come to practice, to me, there's got to be a little bit of a sanctuary there. We got to keep coaching positively, stand in there and be strong as people, and understand that we got to get things fixed. Dug a hole, like I said before. Got to dig our way out of that hole. And there is no easy remedies for things like that. So got to remain positive in that respect and keep coaching. Beyond that, just take that approach of one focus, and that focus is now to beat Northwestern and then move from there. And we get what we get. So we'll go from there. Thanks. Questions?
Mark, I have two questions for you. The first, you've always said that this program wins because of chemistry. After the game Saturday, some guys were talking about that. I'm just curious, is there a chemistry issue on the team?
Not to my, I don't know. What did they say? Tell me.
Just talked about it in general. They didn't get no specifics whatsoever.
I don't think that there's a chemistry problem on our football team. We went into this season with very, very high expectations and hopes. We've had a lot of injuries. We've had quite a few injuries. We've got young players playing at certain positions that, whether they're in backup positions, but getting meaningful minutes or whatever the case. So, we've got a lot of things, and guys are getting better. We'll get better with experience. My focus our focus right now is get ready to play Northwestern and get ourselves in gear. We got 3 games. I look at all 3 of those games as we sort of, fourth quarter, it sort of becomes unraveled. Third quarter in the Wisconsin game, but all 3 games are games where we're in right there with opportunities to win the football games. Our games have always been close. We've always found ways to win them, and guys make plays. And bottom line is we've got to have the right concepts, obviously, or right coaching, being done this particular week, but also got to make plays and execute. And so it's all inclusive, as I've said before. So we'll just, get down to it.
Secondly, you told us, you had to see the film, and after watching the film, the depth chart at quarterback reflects there's been some changes. Are you expecting on Saturday to be any changes either to philosophy of play calling, play caller specifically, or anything to do with the coaching end of your offensive play?
Well, I think every single week, that we're going to try and tailor things relative to who we play against and what they do. I think that's natural. In terms of who's calling the plays, no, absolutely not. Our football program has been in place for quite some time here, and we've been successful. And the natural thing is for everybody to always start saying, well, it's this guy's fault or it's that guy's fault. It's all inclusive. It's all inclusive. So the first person that needs to take that responsibility is me. And so that's where we sit.
Mark, looking at the quarterback situation, you have 3 guys listed as or. I'm sure you probably didn't think that would be the case at this point in the season. I guess, first of all, what have you seen to have all 3 of them in the competition right now? And secondly, do you guys as a staff already know who will play and what the rotation might be?
Well, we've talked at length about those things. Those things will stay in-house, obviously. Obviously, we got to practice this week. We've not practiced yet. So we're basing our decisions right now to bold all 3 of those guys based on Saturday's performance. And then we go from there. And I think Tyler O'Connor, I don't think that he played poorly, but there's got to be production. There's just got to be some production. So more production than what there is. And so that's, again, that's on everybody a little bit. That's on everybody, whether it's protection, routes, running the football, calls, execution by the quarterback, all these different things. So it's tough. It's, some may think unfair, but at the same time, we have to look at the aspect, I think, as you would at any team or any major league team. You got to bring in a relief pitcher or whatever the case. There's nothing to say that one guy will quarterback the entire day. There's nothing to say that that person won't. We'll make that decision based on what we see this week, and there's a case can be made for every way to go. I don't like setting a guy down who's a captain, that's for sure, and he's done a great job in that respect. And he was elected by his teammates. We don't select our captains here by coaches. I don't say, hey, you're the captain and you lead the football team. That's not how we've done it. So, that's a tough situation. I've told all three quarterbacks they're off limits to media this week. I don't think you guys need to pepper them with questions and go through all that stuff with them. They need to get themselves ready to play a football game, all three of them. Maybe more importantly, they need to get themselves ready to practice.
Mark, I know you've talked about that you wouldn't jump in and call plays or anything, but during a week when certain parts of the game plan or the offense or defense aren't working as well, do you find yourself during the week focusing on those things more, maybe jumping into a few more meetings than you did before?
I have. I do. But it's all inclusive. We got, I'm involved. But on game day, you need to separate yourself as a play caller a little bit from all the craziness that's going on in the world or on the sideline or in the game. You need to stay focused. From my perspective, you need to stay focused. When I called the game defensively, you need to stay focused on the task at hand and look for the next play and look to try and make things systematically and make as fast as probably the most important thing is making the call as quick as you can to let it digest in people's minds. And that's not easy to do. So you got a 40-second clock, and sometimes it's a 25-second clock. Well, you got about 10 seconds to make the call. So that's the way we've done it here. That's the way we'll continue to do it. Have faith in what's going on, and we'll get it fixed. But it's execution as well. Every play is designed to work. Every defense is designed to work. If you want me to go back through why we're not succeeding, it's not just on the offensive side of the ball. That's for sure. It's not just play calling. That's for sure. There are things in other areas, and that's the case with most football teams. You got to concentrate on how to fix things that are not going quite right for you, which has always been the case. We're 13-1, 12-2. We got things not working right. We've got to fix them.
Coach, you haven't lost 3 in a row since 2009, and the program hasn't lost 4 in a row since 2006. You've done a lot to raise the bar in terms of expectations from the outside. You used the word sanctuary. What message would you have for fans, people on the outside that are maybe disappointed in this season to this point?
Well, I guess my message to our fans is we're working. We're going to be strong, stay the course. Either you're Spartan fans, you're Spartan fans. If you want to jump off the bandwagon a little bit, I understand a little bit, because people are fickle. Success is fickle. But I think that we've built some equity around here, hopefully. We've done it right. We've done it the right way. And I think we've done it in a positive fashion and with class. So, but, whatever comes down the pipe, I can handle those things. And, I'll take the brunt of that, and I'd like to shield our football team from it as much as I can.
Mark, a lot of times when a team is struggling, you can point to an area and say, we could just fix this. You use the term all-inclusive. Is there one area of the team where you think this team is doing something right and you can build on that? You can hang your hat on it?
Yeah, there's certain things that we're doing in terms of, you want to look at how we're playing against the run. We're getting them in third and long situations. Got to get off the field. There's one instance right there. We get them in third and long. There were many more third and longs than third and shorts. We're playing pretty good on the goal line. We've played well in sudden change situations. I can go through all the things that we need to do, but there's 3 or 4 things right there. We've had some games where we've run the ball very effectively. The Notre Dame game, we ran the ball effectively. I think our running backs are good running backs. They should break out. So we've had some big receiver catches and things of that nature. We just lack consistency, I think, in scoring points offensively, and that lends to a lot of, and then you can start pointing from there, whether it's protection, whether it's routes, whether it's throws, whether it's play calling, all those things. But when things don't go well, there's always a ton of reasons. When things seem to go well, that's fine. You sort of push that off. But here we are, here we sit, so we've got things to do. As I said, one focus. Go ahead.
I never know what to make of the depth chart, because I don't know if that's to keep us guessing, but I do notice there's like 10 oars on offense.
Oh, yeah.
Is any of that a message to the players that you perform, or you're an oar?
I would say that we've got to look to make sure that the people that we put in the game have opportunities. Am I making sense on that? Probably not. What I'm saying is it's going to be him or him. You got to play better. There is a chain of events that happens. Okay, yeah, you got play callings, you got execution. So, in some cases, other guys they're just close, and we've played them before. Tight end, either or. We played both those guys. Running backs, or. We've played all three of those guys. I think the one situation we haven't put an or by is the quarterback, and now it's that way because I think there's a necessary step to take. Some of it's protection, quite frankly, for Tyler in some regards, to allow us to go through the process.
It's not necessarily that every job is up for grabs. Or
No,
is
the
it?
job's not up for grabs, no.
Coach, 2 questions here. First, just a depth chart issue. Brandon
What kind of
Clemens.
issue?
Just a depth chart question, sorry.
Oh.
Brandon Clemens only listed a defensive tackle, not an offensive line. Is that something going forward? He's just going to remain on the defensive
Well, obviously,
side?
he could play offensive line as well.
And
Or
second,
He
sorry, go
could
ahead.
play offensive or defensive line.
Secondly, after watching film, see what Taysom Hill could do, kind of a dual threat guy. This week, Caleb Thorson also can kind of do those same kind of things. So what needs to be changed in containing him?
Well, Taysom Hill was very poised in the pocket. I thought he did a nice job. You know, we got to push the pocket or defensive line when we're rushing 4 people. The 2 defensive tackles can't work outside the defensive ends. Allow a quarterback to step up in the middle of the pocket on 3rd down. There's one thing for you. So we can stop that. Also, a couple quarterback reads where we had people to tackle him. We got to just make the tackle. On the 3rd and 1, we got to make the tackle. There was another opportunity where we could make the tackle for no gain. Got to make the tackle. He scrambled out of there on 2nd down. Probably as important as anything in the first half was the ability to scramble out of there on 2nd and 10. He makes 11 and stops the clock. There's 5 seconds left to kick a field goal. If he only gets 9 or 8, the clock runs out. It's 7-0 at halftime. So little things like that continually point to, we're not that far away, continually point to the inches, a decision here, whether to rip inside or rip off outside, or where to throw the football, or where to make a cut on 3rd and 1, stay outside or bend it back. That's the difference in games. That's the difference in winning and losing. It always has been. I've sat in here for 9 years and said, you got to find the inches. Well, we've lost by inches or we won by inches. That's this type of game. That's the game of football. And the first thing we got to do is make sure that we have a good plan, our mindset's good, our enthusiasm is good, our intentions are good, and we got some stuff to us. And that's what we'll do. I could use other words other than stuff.
Coach,
I'm glad we're laughing out there.
Coach, Justin Jackson, what kind of challenges does he pose to you guys? Is he similar at all to what you faced last week in BYU between Canada and Williams?
Yeah, he's tough. Might not be as big. He's 193 pounds. He's got either he has 3,000 yards now, or he will soon have 3,000, which I think is the 4th time maybe it's ever been accomplished at Northwestern. And he's only a junior. He gives him a guy that can catch the ball as well. I think he does a nice job in pass protection as well, so he's tough. Thornson's a guy that's a run-pass guy. He's been very effective. Obviously Austin Carr is a guy that number 80 is the leading receiver for them, and I think he has 32 catches maybe 6 touchdowns right now, number 80. They'll spread it around, though, a little bit. Defensively, number 16, Godwin, Mbagwe, I'm not sure, but very good player, I think, good tackler, and also Prater, linebacker. They're 2 probably biggest tacklers. Number 7's done a nice job in terms of pressuring the quarterback, especially against Iowa. So a lot of things going on.
Quarterbacks, do you expect all 3 of them to play this weekend?
Don't know that until we get to the end of the week.
And what are you looking for this week that would help any of them either get on the field or secure kind of the number one spot?
They have to have good practices. I mean, pure and simple, they have to demonstrate in practice exactly what they're going to do. As difficult as that is to say, that's where we're at, because I think the case can be made for all three of those guys. We may use two, we may use one, we may use, I don't think we'll use three, but who knows?
Mark, a couple questions. One, what is the case for each of those guys? I mean, obviously, Tyler had separated himself in practice coming into the season. What is the case now for the other two against him?
For the other two?
Well, yeah, I guess for all three.
That would be a long answer question. But I would say, we don't want to have a quarterback controversy, but we need to have more production. That's what's led to this. I need to throw the ball down the field more effectively. That's play calling, and that's execution, and that's route running and things of that nature. Number 6 needs to remain healthy and demonstrate consistency. And then Brian Lewerke is a young guy with a lot of talent, but he may not quite have the experience that the other guys do. But I think to exclude him from this right now would be wrong. So that's the case in point. But we'll see how it all shakes out. And what we'll do at the end of all this is we'll be able to sit there and say whoever we put out on the field, that's who the guy. We've reassessed. We've reassessed ourselves. We've self-scouted ourselves. We've looked at things and said this is this guy's fault. This is this guy's fault. I'm not talking about the quarterback. I'm talking about other people. This could have been handled. And we look at all the different aspects of it and try and make the best decision we can.
The other question is the pass rush. You only have 5 sacks to this point this year.
Yeah,
and
problem.
Defensively, nothing else can really work unless I'm guessing that gets fixed. How do you fix that midseason, knowing what you know now?
Well, we've got some guys with ability. Sometimes we rush 4 and they've got to get. We're not rushing 3 that often. So sometimes there's coverage. There's coverage sacks. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's blitz. We're blitzing at times. Zone pressuring, zero pressuring. So. Man pressuring, things of that nature, but we got to get home. And we've had the guy in our grasp a number of times, and he's gotten out. So that's something that's got to get fixed, and there's got to be more production, period.
Mark, you had a couple guys leave on Saturday we haven't asked about yet. Any long-term injuries you can talk about, or any guys coming back from some of those injuries that you can mention?
Not that I can talk about, no.
Mark, kind of looking at
you guys are almost apologetic asking me these questions.
Two-part question again here. The first,
I'm waiting for my first 3-part question.
I'll stick to 2.
2-part question.
Yeah. First,
I still have a sense of humor, believe it or not.
Cole came in at left tackle for a little bit after Cody left, and he's number 2 on the depth chart. I guess first, what do you see from him that's allowed him to make that move up as a young player? And second, on the other side of the ball, when Malik came back, there was a lot of talk about him missing gap assignments and things like that. What did you see in his performance that he needs to correct a little bit?
Well, first, Cole Chewins is getting his weight up there. He's 285 pounds now, so now he's getting to the point where he's big enough to play. He was a guy that we recruited to that aspect. He's an extremely hard worker, and he's a gifted athlete, so he'll play football for us. He's a redshirt freshman, so he's coming. So those opportunities that he got, I think, were warranted. How he performs beyond that, I think on the other side of the offensive line, Theo Lacusa, is coming as well. Didn't play on Saturday, but his performance dictates that he'll play as well. So, and he's going to be a good player for us. As far as our defensive front, I'm not going to speak specifically at any individual. But yeah, we got to stay in our gaps. When you move 2 gaps rather than 1, or when you're moving laterally as opposed to puncturing an offense, then things get disjointed. And that's not just one person doing that. That's a number of people doing that, and that's got to be corrected. Some of it's just, it's not intentional. I don't think those things are intentional, but those things need to be corrected. They have some of the things relative to pass rush, you can't be a defensive end on this side and end up on that side of the hash. That's just common sense. So things like that are occurring. Things that we can correct, and they need to be corrected.
Is some
Too much.
Mark, can you at least address Riley? You could use him, or is that under, see my last answer? Riley,
See my last answer?
is he closer?
He's close.
Hey, Mark, in this I can fix it now world where let's change the coordinator, let's change the quarterback, let's change the philosophy, let's think about next year. Never mind what you think about it, I can guess. How does that keep from filtering into your team and affect performance?
Well, I think that my feeling is you play for now. That we live in the present world. We look to the future, but we basically live in this world now, and everybody wants immediate results, including myself. So my concern is with the present. My concern is with our seniors, our senior class, and getting it right and giving everybody an opportunity to win. Like I said, one focus, and that focus is not 2017. That focus is 2016. And inevitably, this next game, Northwestern. That's my focus. That's our focus.
Mark, and obviously you came into the season with high expectations. In hindsight, there were a lot of new people or new players in new roles coming in. And when you look back now, can you see some of what's happened coming?
Sure. Yeah, we lost some defensive linemen. We lost 4 defensive linemen. We thought Damon Knox was coming back, and for one reason or another, he was unable to. And then we've got Ed Davis trying to make his way back. He's played 20 plays last week, so we get him back in the game condition like he's been. He'll be a huge asset. But as I've said before, you've got to work his way back. We lost 4 other defensive linemen that were about ready to play. Got to deal with it. Went out and got 2 graduate transfers, but they're new to the program. We went out and recruited 5 defensive linemen that are freshmen, but they're new to the program. You see 2 of them playing right now. That position was sort of gutted. But with all that being said, I thought we stopped the run pretty well in the first half. Really, in 3 quarters. So some of the things, we had a couple coverage blows, things of that nature with an underneath coverage. So, those things are going to happen. You got to be able to fix it. And those things are fixable. But, there's some of those things, like you said, exist, but, that's not a crutch. That's not a reason to sit here and say, well, we didn't get it done. At the end of the day, the score was 7-0 at Indiana at half, and it was 7-3 at half against BYU. So, in my case, not enough production on offense. Defense played pretty well, but then, sort of gave it up a little bit at the end of this, in this past game. And 7 of the points were really, we're trying to stop, and it doesn't really matter on the 31. We're trying to get the ball back. With 24-14, we're trying to get the ball back. So it creased us.
You have a very good staff, but you're also a very strong leader. So your play calling of your staff has come under scrutiny. And I'm curious, Mark, because it happened before under Treddy and Roche. How much of the game plan on Saturdays, I know you don't call the plays, but the game plan, do you establish, and how much is established by your offensive coordinators?
I think whenever you look at an offense or a defense, you can't sit there and say, okay, let's put in an offense this week. You have certain things that you do that you hang your hat on that are staples. And you have to be able to do those things well every single week. They're just staples of who you are. You can look and I can sit there and say, these are the things that Northwestern do. And they're going to have wrinkles. And then they're going to have play calling, and it's timing. When you call what play at what time, and are there wrinkles? Offensively and defensively. How you attack something, how do you manage those things? So from my perspective, for me, for Mark Dantonio, what I've always done, I'm a defensive coach. I spend my time in the defensive room because that's where I have the most knowledge and I have the most expertise, especially in the secondary, okay, which isn't playing that well either. Okay, so when I go over to the offense, I look at things as a defensive coach and make suggestions and say, what about this, what about that? And then I look to see, okay, these are the things that we're running. These are the staples that we run. How are we getting to those particular? How do we run power this week? Here's the 5, 6 different ways to run power. Okay, here's the 8 ways to run power. Here's the 6 ways to run the stretch. Here's the, and on it goes. So a lot of it's formations, a lot of it's, motion and formations and things of that nature that allow you to get to a certain base play in a certain base way. And I think that's the way you do it. Nobody starts from scratch every week and says, okay, let's figure out and practice these 90 plays. You have an X amount of time to rep these plays in practice. So you only have so much time. You only have so many plays to be able to rep. So you can't possibly rep every single play, 5 times. So you're basically saying, here's our staples, here's what we know how to do in our sleep, here's the wrinkles, and okay, these are the ways we're getting to these every week. And from my perspective, we've won a lot of football games here. We've had some high-scoring offenses. We've got 3 quarterbacks playing in the NFL. We've got wide receivers playing in the NFL. We've got tailbacks playing in the NFL. So it's all about play calling and execution. But we've got to be productive. So we ran into this in 2012. I understand that. Had a stronger defense at that time. So, but we'll get there. Like I said before, you've got to be strong, got to be resilient, and got to keep pushing. Because if you don't, things get worse. And I can promise you one thing, if you think you got a problem, it can always get worse. I don't care whether you're dealing with football or anything else, it can always get worse. And we have to guard against that and be positive and be strong. And that's what they hired me for here. And they hired me to win, obviously. But I think just as importantly is how you handle the problems. That defines you.
Mark, over here, I got a non-football question for you.
Sure you would.
I'm sure you
I'm going to give some of this back to you guys at some point.
There's been a lot of
I'm going to sit out there one day.
Let's say it's a non-football question for you. It'll be a 4-part question,
good.
too.
That'll be good. 4-part.
There's been a lot of discussion lately about quote-unquote locker room talk and how that it's acceptable for crude language toward women because of the culture that's been cultivated through sports with athletes. Does it bother you that so many people have accepted this? And is it fair to really paint all these athletes with such a broad brush when it's probably not the case?
No, I don't think it's fair to paint all these athletes with a broad brush. I think there's, obviously different people and everything else. And you look at society right now and, which way are we going, up or down? And that's a good question. I only heard 2 parts, but that's a good question.
I got 2 more to go.
Okay. It's I think it's just like anything. When you start going down, sometimes you don't recognize how low you are until you look around. So, but look around.
Would it offend you if you knew that your players were talking in such a way that you may not be there to hear it, but you find out about it? Would it offend you if you knew
If they're talking in the locker room?
If they're talking, making crude comments about women?
Yeah, it would bother me. It'd bother me, but, I can't control what everybody's saying and those type of things. And you look at society right now, it's tough out there in that regard, I think. But yeah, of course it would bother me. I have 2 daughters, but, I can't control everything. I can't control everything. So, and are you being specific to our locker room, or are you talking in generalities?
A general
Generalities. I think there are a lot of good people in a lot of locker rooms all over the country. And if I hear language coming out of our locker room, then I'm going to correct the language in a positive way. Okay? I'm not going to accept it. I think you come out to our football field, and you guys have been out there before, I don't think you hear our coaches going off in that regard. I don't think. So, not to say that happens at other places or not, but we're going to try and handle ourselves in that regard and try and be I don't want to use the word role model, but an example.
A leader?
Yeah.
In that case, yeah.
An example for our players, especially when in difficult times. Thanks, guys.